Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and before we start the review, I wanted to make a little announcement. You see, I don't know if you guys know this because not a lot of the people who watch this video have always watched this channel, but I am a filmmaker myself, and I have been working on my first film ever since 2022. But I've really been working on trying to make a movie ever since like 2017, and so it's been a long process. And my teaser trailer for my first movie, Drimp, aka Dr. Imperfect and the Perfect Man, is going to release this Friday. And so I am very excited for you all to see the first official look at my movie. I feel like I am turning over a brand new leaf. I'm turning over a brand new, what I think is going to be incredible. I'm going into a new era, and I hope that you all join me. Because it's going to be nice to finally have a movie come out, of mine. Because I feel like I've been doing a lot of talk, and now I need to walk the walk. So now to the review. This review is going to be a series of reviews in which I talk about the Frankenstein movies, all the classic Universal Frankenstein movies, the ones that I grew up on, the ones that got me started on horror, because the way that I kind of got, I wouldn't say, I guess nursed into horror is that I watched the Universal stuff first, then the Hammer stuff, and then I got introduced to the more adult stuff, which is like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, etc., etc. So that's how I was brought up on horror. And so this movie, it was very influential to me. It's funny, actually, because everyone knows that my favorite movie is Fright Night. Everyone knows that I am insane for vampires. They know that I am a vampire guy. My very first crush was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In fact, I actually have the same birthday as the movie Buffy. I forgot her name. Christy Swanson? Oh, no, never mind. I didn't forget it. You forgot it. But it's funny, though, because Frankenstein, the first one, it is probably the number one inspiration as to why I wanted to become a filmmaker. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this video, probably. To tie it back in with my current film. So to get started on Frankenstein, the first thing that I love about this movie is the opening credits. The opening credits, and in fact, there's a part before the opening credits where just they have this, it's almost like a play. They have this curtain background, and then this guy comes out. It's actually one of the actors from the movie who also played Van Helsing in Dracula, the Bela Lugosi Dracula. He comes out, and he introduces the movie, and he says, this movie, it might really scare you. It might make you sick. It might disgust you. And it's such an epic opening because it's like, keep in mind, like, when Universal made these movies, the thing that I've always heard, I don't really know, like, the full specifics. Like, I'd love to do, like, a deep history dive with, like, Universal movies and stuff from back then. But the story that I always heard was that they were out of money, and they needed to make a comeback. And they needed to make, like, great movies to get people to start seeing their movies again and to save themselves. And, to come out with this, I think this was like, this is the first in the Universal Monsters Classic collection, but I don't really know if it's the first Universal horror movie. Probably isn't. But for them to just come out, and this guy comes out and he's like, hey, this movie is going to be insane. And if you have a weak stomach, well, get prepared because you're gonna have a hard time with this movie. To me, it just screams confidence, and it just screams like balls. Like, this is back when movies have balls. And, Frankenstein, it definitely lets you know that it has some big balls. And also, I love the influence that Treehouse of Horror took from this movie. They had several Treehouse of Horror episodes start off with one or more of the Simpsons coming out in front of a curtain and being like, hello, this episode's going to be very scary, or we're going to cancel this episode, or something like that. So that's the first thing that I love about the movie, is the very first thing in the whole movie. The second thing that I love is the opening credits. I feel like no one talks about the opening credits. It's such a strange trip. The music is interesting too, because I feel genuinely like the best music is the opening credits of this movie. It's bizarre, it's weird, and it just feels like it was made for this story. And it's weird because they have these weird pictures of, like, the first image you have, like, it's just like this guy's eyes and the top of his head, and then you have his hands, and there's like rays coming out of his eyes, like rays of light, and it's just bizarre because Bernie wants to come in. Of course. He got so scared he actually left while I was watching Frankenstein. So I bet he's gonna sit on my bed now. Yep, that's what he's doing. Hi, Bernie. So anyways, this picture is strange because the guy's face in the picture looks a lot like Fritz. And Fritz is kind of the Igor of this movie, and which is funny because people always think Frankenstein, they think Igor. They don't think about Fritz. And but I have to wonder, where did these opening credits pictures come from? Like, I would love to know, what was the story behind the opening credits? Because it's very bizarre. They also have this image of this like bald guy, and he almost looks like an alien. And it's trippy. And then it just ends, and it's like, okay. And also, too, they have in the credits the monster, and then question mark, is in like, oh, who's playing him? I wonder who. Wink, wink. So I thought that was cool. And I will say, this movie, I didn't expect it to enjoy it as much as I did. And this is what happens with a lot of older movies in particular, is that, you go into them thinking, there's going to be some boring parts. And then you watch them and it's like, wow, this is so much better than the movies that we have now. It's the same thing that happened when I watched Revenge of the Sith. And I was like, oh, I remember that movie being so boring, and there were all these boring, stupid parts. And then I watched it again recently, last week. Or, no, this week, but earlier in the week, but it's about to be last week. And it entertained me the entire way through. I was never bored. And I was never bored watching Frankenstein again. And yeah, I will say, though, the weakest parts of the movie to me are the beginning and the middle. Not the graveyard stuff. The graveyard stuff is cool. I mean, they jump right into it. And of course, one of the things that everyone brings up is the set design. The set design is incredible. And it's so atmospheric. And it's so horror. It just feels like horror personified. And I think that, say what you will about the sequels, because there are quite a few sequels. In fact, oh my God, I just did not. Oh my God, I forgot about a couple of sequels. There's quite a few, aren't there? Wow. Well, we're not going to get done this week then, probably, with that. Wow. I just forgot about, wow. Anyways, whoops. So, there's a lot of them, it turns out. I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, there's Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein. Is there Frankenstein in Vegas or something too? Like, that's what it feels like. It's like, how many Frankensteins are there? There's a lot. But, yeah. But the set design, it's so great, and I really feel like if you look at the sequels, if you look at some of the sequels, the later sequels, I think that some of those struggled because they didn't put as much effort into the set design, I feel. I think my favorite one personally, I think, is House of Frankenstein. Well, I don't know. But I don't know, now, how I'll feel about it compared to how I felt, growing up. But the set design, in that movie, it's really nothing special. And there's not really any sets that really jump out to you in comparison to this movie, where, every single set is just so detailed and huge and perfect and so gothic and just, it's just so good. And I really feel, too, like this movie is a study on how to do a lot with a little. Because the way that they were able to make this, horror movie with this limited budget and to make it feel so grand. And I really think that a key part of that, and I've noticed this about older movies, is wide shots. Nowadays, people are really narcissistic. They're obsessed with headroom. And they're obsessed with, we have to see the actors' faces really close to the camera, and it has to be a certain way. We have to shoot it a certain way, and we can't have any wide shots, and we can't have any headroom. And it's funny because if you look at older movies, they used close-ups and mediums really, really sparingly. I mean, you look at these older movies like this Frankenstein, there are so many wide shots. And what that does is it just creates atmosphere. It makes every frame feel like a painting. It makes every frame feel like a work of art. When you have all these close-ups and these mediums, these boring headshots that the actors want for their stupid demo reels, and their, still images collection, it just takes all the art out of the movie. And I feel like that's a funny thing that I realized while watching this movie is just, they loved wide shots back then. And I talked about that in my Hustler review, is that they loved these huge wide sets with all these characters moving about. And it just made everything feel so much better and so much more beautiful. I mean, I think there are exceptions. I mean, I think in certain instances, it is good to have quite a few close-ups and to kind of I don't know, maybe like a Western where you have the duel and you have the close-ups of the eyes and the gun and all that stuff. But, this constant close-up stuff nowadays, it's boring. It's so boring and dull. And this movie, it's shocking, honestly, because, they act like it's a sin nowadays if you have quote-unquote headroom in a picture, in a frame. And it's like, fuck that. Fuck that. I want my movie to look like this movie, not the shitty modern movies. So that's another thing I loved about the movie. I loved all the headroom in the movie because I'm sick and tired of hearing that, and I'm sick and tired of people acting like you can't have wide shots anymore. So another thing to talk about with the movie is it goes by pretty damn fast. I mean, it's only like an hour and 10 minutes, and you could make the argument that some of the characters are a little underdeveloped. I mean, it's all very convenient how the story plays out, and obviously it doesn't really follow the book as much, if at all. I mean, hardly at all. And I mean, especially with the monster himself, who, in the book, the monster talks. The monster is very intelligent, but in the movie, the monster is just like, I mean, it's really funny, actually, if you think about it. Like, I wonder if Mary Shelley was alive, what she would have thought of the movie, because, just imagining, like, oh, I wrote this really intelligent villain who he's really intellectual. He's like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. He's an intellectual match for the main character. And then, there's Boris Karloff. There's the monster. Oh. You know what I would have done? I would have gotten up and thrown my popcorn at the screen. And just as I did that, by the way, Bernie turned away from me. My cat turned away from me when I made those noises. I guess he doesn't like Frankenstein. He's scared of Frankenstein. But yeah, I'm trying to think, because there's a lot of stuff that I could say. Like, I love the movie. I think that it's a near perfect movie. But if I had to nitpick, I don't like the guy with the mustache. And I realize, though, you have to have these other characters who come in and are like, oh, is Frankenstein crazy? He's a crazy man. He's a madman. You have to have a character like him. But he is just so boring and by the books. I wonder if the actor, because I don't know the actor's name, but I wonder if the actor has ever been in like a really good role. Because it seems like this is another thing about Universal monster movies that people don't really talk about. Well, at least I haven't really heard people talk about very much, is that they constantly reused actors for these same movies. So, even like Fritz, he was Renfield in Dracula, and then Van Helsing, he was Dr. Waldman in Frankenstein. And so, like, it's interesting to see these different people in these different roles, but I don't think I've ever seen that mustache guy before, but I feel like I have, because you see that mustache man in every old movie. There has to be like a mustache man who understands what's going on. And it honestly felt to me, when I was a kid, it felt to me like... Victor, you gotta lock down your future wife here. She's Elizabeth. She's spending a lot of time with this mustache man. I know the mustache might be a little twinkle when he gives her a kiss, but she's spending a lot of time with him, and they're sitting around talking about, oh my God, my boyfriend never spends that. And that's what you have to realize too with this character of Elizabeth. She is one of those girls, and I actually had this happen in high school. It is the absolute worst, where you get friend zoned, and then the girl that you have a crush on, she'll spend like all her time telling you about what kind of man she's looking for. And then you're just sitting there like, I'm right here. And it's like, and that's what she's like. She's like constantly complaining about her future husband, constantly like, oh my God, my boyfriend is up in his castle. My fiance, he's up in his castle and he won't talk to me. And he's focused on his work, and he's trying to experiment, and it's just, I hate it. I just wish I could have a man who paid attention to me. And, the mustache man is right there. And it's like, yeah, that's one of the funny things about the movie. There's a lot of little funny things, too. this is another thing that I've noticed about older movies, is that they didn't really go for a lot of in-your-face comedy, but they would have these genius little moments of like comedy that happened all throughout the movie that just happened. In fact, like there's one at the very, very end where like all these girls are rushing to his name is Henry in the movie, not Victor, but they all rush to Henry's room to give him a glass of his grandmother's wine. And then there's this other guy, and I think it's the Burgermeister, and he's like, no, he doesn't need that. And then he takes it and he drinks it himself. And he actually says the last line of the movie, too. And yeah, one of the things that I would say needed to be improved on, because I'm not going to say it's bad. This movie's fantastic. It's a masterpiece. It is cinema. But one of the things that they could have improved on, to be like nitpicky, because this is kind of like Home Alone, where I reviewed Home Alone and I was like, yeah, it's a perfect movie. What do you want me to say? But one of the things is that, near the end, they never really get too mad with Henry about creating his monster. And, it just, I don't know, it kind of felt like, you have this angry mob, and, they've seen that a little girl was murdered by this monster, and apparently the monster's causing chaos in the mountains off screen too. And it's like, you never really see any discussion over, well, who created the monster? Oh, well, Henry did. And, oh, well, fuck Henry. We hate Henry. Put Henry away. There's basically nothing. And then at the end, too, I think maybe Henry earns back the town's respect, and that's why they don't bring it up at all. But he 1v1s his monster for a very short time, twice, and he comes face-to-face with him, he confronts him, and he's not afraid of his creation. And I think that's another really interesting change about this movie, is that, in the book, Frankenstein is a huge pussy. And it's really weird because he creates this monster and then he's really horrified of it and he just doesn't want to look at it at all. And it's like, come on, grow some balls. Like, this is Frankenstein. You gotta have balls to be in Frankenstein. And so, I'm just kidding, by the way, about that. I'm just being facetious, but I would also say it's interesting because, a big thing with Frankenstein is that, in the Monster Squad, and a classic thing that you hear is, who is the villain in Frankenstein? Or no, they say, like, who is Frankenstein? And people think it's the monster. But no, it's Henry Frankenstein. It's the guy. It's not the monster. It's Henry Frankenstein, and that's why they call the movie Frankenstein. I just think that, though, you see this monster and you see a name like Frankenstein, and it really fits the monster more than the person. And so that's another interesting thing, is that I feel like the movie, it doesn't really give as much development to Henry as you would want. I really feel like he gets more development as a character in Bride of Frankenstein, which is why a lot of people like that one more. Because, you have... this guy's the main character of the movie. He talks the whole movie. He's in almost the whole movie. And yet, everyone walks away just thinking about the monster. And I think it's because curiosity and mystery of, like, wait a second, how is this possible? This is a person made out of dead body parts come to life. How is this possible? And just what would that be like? What would that person be like? And that mystery is so much more intriguing than like, oh, there's a mad scientist and he's insane and he's got these crazy ideas. It's so much more interesting. So yeah. But I would say too, another interesting thing is the fact that, Boris Karloff does such a good job at playing this character without basically any dialogue. But I genuinely think, especially after seeing Bride of Frankenstein, I think that they easily could have adapted the original book with the dialogue for the monster. I easily think they easily could have had Boris Karloff delivering those lines, because Boris Karloff, he has an iconic voice. I mean, when you hear his voice, you recognize it, just like Vincent Price, Bela Lugosi, and so that's another thing that I would say. But yeah, I think that my favorite part of the movie is still just the graveyard stuff, the part where Fritz gets the wrong brain, the part where they're in the laboratory creating the monster. But I do think in general the movie could have breathed a little more, because it does feel very rushed. But I can forgive it because, they had a limited budget, they had limited time, limited this, limited that. They did what they could, and they made this great of a movie. But I love the creation stuff, because this is really what I think is the meat and potatoes of Frankenstein movies, which is when the monster gets created in the laboratory, because that's where the creativity from the filmmaker really comes in. Because you see, for every single Frankenstein movie, there's a different kind of thing that they do. There's different methods that they use. And it feels like every filmmaker brings his own creative spin to how you would create a monster and how you would bring someone back to life. And it's fun because it brings out the kid in you. It's almost like Legos or like Minecraft of you can do whatever you want. Just what are those machines? Who knows? It's just some fucking machines and shit. And it's like, oh, how does that all work together? Oh, I don't know, but it looks cool. So that's the fun part. And then also, of course, the way that the monster looks is so good. Because you look at him and you just... that moment where he walks through the door and they cut to that really close-up, that close-up of his face, it's like, it looks real. And it genuinely looks like, okay, I am seeing an iconic shot right here. So yeah, I love this movie. I could watch it again right now. I just got done watching it. I could watch it again. I could have Safi watch it and then do a second part of a review tomorrow if I wanted to. That's how much I enjoy this movie. What happened when I was a kid, and I will only talk about it in this review, because I don't want to just say the same bullshit over and over again like a robot. When I was a kid, I thought it would be a really good idea to aspire to become like Frankenstein. And so I really wanted to bring people back to life. And I would do experiments on toads, and I killed a lot of toads. I think I killed about 50. And I'm being generous with the count. It might have been more, because I wanted to be like Frankenstein, and so I would do experiments on them all the time, and it was pretty bad. And then I stopped doing that, and so because I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I was like, that was one of the bad things I did as a kid. But I wanted to be a Frankenstein. And I even was like talking to people about like, let's make a Frankenstein's monster together. Like, anyone could do it. It was really silly. And I still feel bad for all those toads that I killed. But eventually I had to come to the realization that, you just don't want to do that type of thing. It probably is possible in some way. I mean, you already have reincarnation, and so it already is possible in some form, which I have come to terms with in the past couple of years. But I was like, okay, what's the next thing that I could do next to being Frankenstein? Oh, I know. I could make movies. And I could be Frankenstein in a movie. Or I could have someone else play Frankenstein in a movie. I could make my own Frankenstein movie. So no matter what, I was Frankenstein for those 2 hours. And you can't say otherwise. So that's my story of like watching Frankenstein as a kid and being introduced to that movie and everything. And it was very influential to me. Other movies in the series were too. And this movie in general, I could probably do a commentary at some point. Maybe I should do that with Safi because, Safi really does need to start participating in the channel, which she will next week when we resume Woody Allen Week. But this is just an endlessly good movie. There's so many things about it to love, even for the couple of things that you could say could be improved. I'll take the movie without those things being improved. Like, I'll take it for what it is. This is a perfect horror movie. It's a perfect movie in general. It's just a great movie, and we need more movies like this and less movies like Barbie. So, in terms of food, I just gotta give this movie steak and potatoes, because that's what this movie feels like. It feels like they cut out all of the excess, all of the fat, to where it's just the meat and potatoes of the story. Do I think the book is better? I've never really been able to get through the book all the way. The language just isn't really my cup of tea. Like, it's just kind of, I don't really like it. It's not that I don't like the language. It's just that it's hard to understand and to roll with, because when you read, you have to roll with what you're reading. You have to get at a pace. It's like when you get on a bicycle and, you have to, push yourself onto the bicycle and then push your feet on the pedals. I can't really do that when I read language like this that's so old. It helps me to process it more if I like watch a movie like this or something, where I can, understand what they're saying a little bit better and such. So anyways, one last reminder, once again, the first teaser trailer for Drimp is going to be this Friday. And it will be on this channel, and it will be on the Risky Ideas Movies YouTube channel and all the other platforms. It is going to be everywhere because Drimp is taking over. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you think about the original Frankenstein. I know that this might have been a little bit too fast of a review. Like, I feel like I could talk about this movie for hours. I could talk about just a lot of just little things too, because it's there's so many things to love, and you often find that with older movies, is that there are so many things to love. Whereas new movies, it's like, oh yeah, that was good. And then you just never watch it again, And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon for Bride of Frankenstein, which is everyone's favorite. Is it mine? We will find out. Dun dun dun.